Hi everyone, it's Joe here from Lawn Solutions Australia, and welcome to this episode of Turf Talk, where I'm joined by my colleague Nathan. Nathan, we're going to dive into some seasonal related stuff today. What's on the agenda?
G'day, Joe. It's officially winter, so today we're going to cover everything that we think is relevant to help your lawn throughout the winter period and over the coming months. So we'll run through a checklist of things that we think are most important to cover, and we'll kick it off with fertilising. So a lot of people ask us this time of year, should I still be fertilising my lawn?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the answer isn't black and white. It's everything we talk about today is going to be relative to where you're actually located. So people that are in central Queensland, for example, will be treating their lawn differently during winter than what people in Victoria will be. But there is one easy way to tell whether you should fertilise your lawn or not. And when we're talking about fertilising right now, we're talking about granular fertiliser. Should I use a granular fertiliser or not? The one easy way to tell is whether your lawn is still actively growing or not. So if you're in the southern states, chances are your lawn is well into its dormancy period now, and it wouldn't have been actively growing for a couple of weeks, if not a month or so now. If your lawn is dormant, you're not mowing it, it's not actively growing, there is no real benefit in using a granular fertiliser. Granular fertilisers, the nutrient release in them is taken up by an actively growing plant or an actively growing root system. So if your lawn's hit dormancy, the answer to that question of should I apply a granular fertiliser is no. You can still do it. It's not going to harm your lawn, but you're going to get a lot more benefit by doing a few other things, which we'll talk about later. But also with granular fertiliser, you're going to get more benefit if you just wait till spring. So you're wasting your money and your product a little bit there. But if your lawn is still actively growing or is in a period of sort of semi-dormancy, which people in Brisbane might be experiencing, you will still get a benefit out of a granular fertiliser. Just always read the label or check with the manufacturer if you're going to use one. But chances are, if your grass is still growing, then you're still going to get some benefit out of a granular fertiliser. In saying all that, if you still want to fertilise your lawn and your lawn has gone dormant or is in a period of semi-dormancy, there are a couple other things you can do, Nath.
There is, and I think liquid fertilisers is the key there. Your lawn will still be absorbing a certain amount of nutrient. It's not, most in cases, it won't be completely asleep, so I've still got some capacity to absorb some nutrient. And if you're going to do so, a liquid fertiliser or a foliar fertiliser is the way to do it. You can improve the health of your lawn through winter with a liquid fertiliser like Exceed. Generally, those sort of liquid fertilisers will contain some micronutrients in an added dose. Something like iron or manganese are really good to help the health of your lawn throughout the winter period. They'll help minimise the effects of frost and cool conditions in general. So basically strengthening the plant rather than encouraging growth is what you want out of a liquid fertiliser throughout that winter period.
And what a lot of people do that works well is they use their liquids and granulars in tandem, in combination. So they might do a granular fert, their last one for the season, say in depending where they are, say they're in Sydney. They might do that around Easter time to really kick it full of nutrients before it starts to get cold. And then they might drip feed, fortnightly liquid fertiliser applications from that period right to when their lawn is fully dormant. So they get the big hit of nutrients from the granular fertiliser, and then they'll just get little hits of liquid fert heading into the winter period to keep colour in the plant and just to help it fight against frost and the cooler conditions. So I think using granulars and foliars in tandem is a good thing. If you're ever unsure, just think if your lawn is actively growing, have you mown it recently? When you did mow it last, did you take a lot of clip off? If the answer to those is no, then look at a foliar fertiliser instead of a granular. But if it's still moving along, then you can definitely use a granular fertiliser.
Yeah. And if it started to lose some colour, a lot of people quickly think, I need to feed my lawn. It's struggling. It's definitely not always the case, particularly in this sort of transitional period into winter. It means that it's going dormant. It means it's losing colour. It's not producing as much chlorophyll from photosynthesis as it goes dormant. So colour loss is normal, and you don't want to stress about it too much. It doesn't mean that your lawn's unhealthy. So that's an important thing to consider, I guess. It doesn't mean you need to fertilise your lawn in most cases.
Right. That's right. Big words. Now, mowing. So we spoke about mowing a little bit there and using, how often you're mowing as a bit of a guide to if you should apply a granular fertiliser or not. But how regularly should I be mowing my grass is a common one. And a lot of the time you mow your grass this time of year because you saw your neighbour doing it. I think that's a pretty common theme out there. But look, You don't technically need to mow your lawn. If you're going to mow your lawn at this time of year, it's more to do in just keeping it looking tidy as opposed to actually cutting the grass or doing any benefit for the lawn itself. But I think people still should get the mower out every so often in winter.
You just want to maintain a height is the main thing. You don't want to take it any lower to put it under stress, but you also want to keep it tidy, keep it clear of debris and leaves and that sort of thing. And just knocking the top of it every few weeks if required. Depends on where you are and how much growth and soil temp you've still got in it. But yeah, basically, how long is a piece of string? It's a matter of does it need mowing, mow it. If it doesn't, you don't need to. But it certainly can be advantageous to just give it a quick mow if it's looking a bit rough around the edges or needs a bit of a tidy up.
Yes, this is particularly important if you've got deciduous trees around your place and you're in a cooler climate like Victoria, like Adelaide, like regional parts of New South Wales. If you're late autumn and you're still noticing leaves falling from trees and are on your lawn, you should get the mower out even if you're not cutting a blade of grass just to tidy up your lawn, because you need to maximise the amount of sunlight your lawn receives at that time of year. And if it's getting smothered by leaves and other debris, then put the mower on it with the catcher on is a great way of cleaning up your lawn. And whether you're taking grass off or not, it still definitely looks tidier when you mow your lawn. So if you've got an event on or you've got people coming around in the cooler months, still don't be afraid to get the mower out. You're obviously not going to be doing it so regularly, but once, twice, 3 times over the cooler months is going to be plenty. But it just keeps your height in check, as Nathan said before, and it tidies your grass up really, really well. But from a grass performance standpoint, the only reason you would consider it is to remove stuff off your lawn, remove debris off your lawn, just to make sure you can maximise every bit of sunlight you possibly get during the cooler months.
Yeah, and I think the key is to just stick to that 1/3 rule. So make sure when you do give it that mow that you're only removing 1/3 of the leaf and no more, which is the same guide for any other part of the year, except for spring if you're looking to do a renovation and a scalp and that sort of thing. But I see a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it myself, you sort of get to a stage where the lawn's slowed down and you think, I'll just give it that one last mow before it goes into winter dormancy and I won't have to mow it for a while. And you tend to take it a little bit shorter than you should. The problem with this is obviously you've caused a little bit of scalping potentially and the lawn's slowed down, and it's basically going to stay like that for the next couple of months, and it's going to make it a little bit more vulnerable to weeds invasion. It's not going to be looking its best as it could have been. So the key is to raise the mower up one notch, not down a notch, and make sure you just maintain it there so you don't cause any undue stress throughout the winter period. Touched on weeds there, and that sort of leads us into the next one. What can I use to stop lawn weeds throughout winter?
Yeah, it's generally when you're going to see them. Now, weeds grow all year round, but the thing where weeds is different than warm season grasses is a lot of them don't stop growing through winter. The weeds might always be there through summer, but some of them you don't see because you're mowing so regularly, because your grass is so dense, so lush, you don't actually see the weeds. It doesn't mean they're not there, so they actually become quite noticeable when your lawn slows down in growth and the weeds continue to power. They'll stand out really, really clearly, but there's a couple of ways, obviously, you can get on top of weeds, but I guess the main point of this is a perfect time of year to be diligent and clean your lawn up as much as you possibly can in preparation for spring, because like we said, fertilizer only really work when grass is growing before. Herbicides only really work when the weed is actively growing to take the product in and to actually harm it. And your grass is dormant. So herbicides, you've got to be pretty careful with herbicides when you're spraying them to an actively growing lawn, because they can stunt and discolour growth if they're used incorrectly. You're a lot safer doing that in winter because your lawn's shut down and it's in a period of dormancy. So it is really the perfect time to spray for weeds. And we'll start with post-emergent weed control. So we're talking about weeds that you can actually see here. So how to treat these is dependent on the weed and how many of them there are. I always tell people if it's a manageable amount of weeds, and I just say manageable, you don't put a number on because manageable is different for everyone. If it's a manageable amount of weeds and you can remove the weed with taking the root system away too, always try and remove by hand. Always good to avoid using herbicides where possible. So if you've got, a couple of broadleaf weeds here and there, a couple of bits of wintergrass here and there, you're always better out going out and hand weeding, I think, as opposed to using a herbicide. But if they have got out of control, it's important you identify the weeds. So Nathan, let's start with broadleaf weeds. So basically anything that's not a grass, clover, bindii, oxalis, cat's ear, cudweed, those sort of things. What are we looking at to treat those with?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of clover in particular popping up recently. So those are all broadleaf weeds. So broadleaf weeds, they can be treated with a broadleaf herbicide. We've got our own all-purpose weed control. It's a ready-to-use hose-on type product. There's also bin dye concentrate. There's a range of different broadleaf herbicides. The key thing is just to make sure that it's safe to use on your particular turf variety, and apply them as per the label instructions. The label instructions are so important. We see a lot of people over-applying herbicides. They think that if they do a really strong dosage that it's going to be more effective. It's
kill them quicker.
It doesn't. It's going to be most effective if you use it at the dosage rate recommended. Sometimes you might require a repeat application for some weeds that are particularly going to stick around a little bit. But other than that, that's sort of key. But like Joe said on hand weeding, I think it's the number one way and quickest way to get rid of particular broadleaf weeds throughout your lawn. It doesn't take a lot of time to just wander across your lawn every few days and just pull them out, whatever you see in hand. If you're on the phone, I do it a lot. You walk outside on your phone, have a phone call, and you just pull them out as you go, as you see them. And it's the quickest way to keep on top of them before they go to seed and spread throughout the lawn. And obviously, if you remove them by hand, you don't see them withering and dying within the lawn as well. They're completely removed and gone. So that's a pretty easy tip to follow.
So that's broadleaf weeds. Before we move on to grass type and other type of weeds, 2 points to that to follow on from what Nathan said. First one is just checking that the herbicide that you're using is right for not only those weeds but also your lawn variety. A common misconception out there is with the generic product Weed and Feed. Weed and Feed is not safe for use on buffalo lawns, softleaf buffalo lawns. And when we're talking the residential turf market, a great portion of those lawns are softleaf buffalo lawns, like Sir Walter DNA certified, for example. So if you're using a Weed and Feed, you can do so on, kike and cooch. There are better products out there like specialist herbicides, but just be mindful of that. The active in most Weed and Feed products is an active called dicamba, and it's not safe for softleaf buffalo. So it's really important that you're aware of that and you're sticking to proper broadleaf herbicides. Second point is a lot of these products, and all-purpose weed control is included in that, are hose-on products or RTU, ready-to-use products, where you hook your hose on and you start spraying. This doesn't mean label rates don't exist. So we see this all the time where people just get the bottle and it's fun and you spray your entire lawn, or you sit there and you hold it on a patch of clover and you wait for the clover to die before your very eyes. But that's not how it works. So on these bottles, they will say, for example, treats up to 150 square metres. If you have a 50 square metre lawn, you only use 1/3 of that bottle. Too often people, and I get it, like it's an easy thing to do, you get it, you feel like you have to empty the bottle for the product to work. It's not the case. I say this all the time. These chemical manufacturers spend millions of dollars on getting label rates just right. It's really important you stick to them, and it's no different when you're using a ready-to-use than whether you're using a concentrate and you're mixing it up yourself. It's just so much easier to get wrong with a ready-to-use. So end of rant, but just be mindful that's the thing there.
Great advice. And one thing I want to touch on, you can't talk about weeds in winter without talking about wintergrass. Wintergrass is prolific throughout the winter months, and if left to spread on its own, it can be absolutely riddle your lawn quite easily year after year. So wintergrass itself requires a specific herbicide called wintergrass killer. It's safe on most warm season grasses except for kikuyu, but there are some other products on the market now which are or labelled to say that they are safe on kikuyu. So the same with the broadleafs. Make sure you use a wintergrass killer herbicide that's safe to use on your particular variety. But wintergrass, or Poa annua as it's called, is absolutely prolific, and it's so important to hand weed it before it seeds or use a wintergrass herbicide as soon as possible.
So wintergrass killer, don't know who was in the marketing meeting when they came up with that name, but it's pretty clever. There are some other ones like Monument herbicide, which is registered for wintergrass, but you have to be careful. You got to have a chem cert to apply Monument, or you got to get a contractor in to apply Monument to your lawn, as it's not registered for the home and garden. But it is effective on wintergrass. The other one is Duke herbicide, which is safe on kikuyu as well, which is pretty rare. And Duke herbicide again is a very effective herbicide on wintergrass. I've seen it for myself firsthand on my lawn. But there's a saying with wintergrass that 1 year seeding is 7 years weeding. So they're very, very prolific seeders. If you don't know what you're talking about and you're in the southern states, chances are you've seen it or you actually have it in your lawn. It's a lime green coloured tufty growing weed that produces an arrow-like seed head. The good thing about wintergrass, if you only have a few plants, and if there is a good thing about wintergrass, is that it is very easy to remove by hand. It's got a very shallow root system. And if you get a bit of rain like we've had recently in the eastern states of Australia, and there's a little bit of moisture in the ground, you can actually hand remove wintergrass really, really easily. You can spray it, like Nathan said, but always, if you can avoid it, try not to spray and remove by hand, because the wintergrass herbicides, whilst they work, they can take a couple of applications and a fair bit of time to actually take effect. You'll see browning pretty quickly, but actually killing the plant will take a little bit of effort. So hand removing is always best for plants that you can see or weeds that you can see, but we like to go another way with wintergrass where you can, and that's actually preventing them. And it's not just wintergrass; it's a bunch of different weeds. But I guess now we'll move into some preventative type weed control.
Pre-emergent herbicides, yeah. So it's a relatively new technology, I guess, to the domestic market is pre-emergent herbicides. So they don't treat the wintergrass or other weeds that are already present in your lawn. They're going to prevent the germination or above ground germination of weeds before they come to the surface. So it's a really great way to get on top of wintergrass in particular. Timing of application is extremely important. In most states now, a lot of people might consider it to be too late. You definitely want to get your application in most cases, as a general guide, mid-autumn or when you notice that you're basically starting to put the mower away. If your lawn's slowing down, wintergrass is likely speeding up and starting to germinate. So that's when you want to do it, but it's never too late. Well, I don't think so anyway.
No, the best thing you can do here with pre-emergency is to apply at the start of every season, regardless of the time of year. Just keep applying at the start of every season and you'll know you'll get year-round control. Nathan's right. Whilst it is too late, at the same time, it's never too late if you're trying to control wintergrass. If you haven't applied a pre-emergent yet, we're at the start of winter, you can apply one this weekend. Just be mindful that it will not touch any wintergrass plants that have already germinated and that you can see, but it will prevent any future germination. So what you can do is pull a few of the ones out now by hand that you can see and then begin your wintergrass control program through a pre-emergent. I always tell people if they haven't applied through the growing months but they want to protect their lawn from wintergrass, depending where you are, if you're sort of Sydney and south, you want to get an application out late Feb, early March, because wintergrass plants, if you get a couple of wet, cooler days, can actually begin to germinate. You don't see them though, because like I said before, you're still mowing your lawn. But it doesn't mean they're not there. So I'd get an application out sort of late Feb, early March, and then again 12 weeks later. If you're in the warmer areas like northern New South Wales or Brizzy, you can probably start applying, like Nathan said, just as the weather starts to cool down, and you'll protect your lawn against wintergrass. But the benefit of pre-emergency is it's not just wintergrass; it's a whole host of weeds that they do actually control. But wintergrass is the main one. Types of pre-emergent, you've got two. You've got granular, and you've got I guess liquid pre-emergents or concentrated pre-emergents, which you can spray on. We have a granular product called Oxifert. Now, the name Oxifert derives from the active ingredient, which is oxidizone, which is a really effective pre-emergent. But what it is oxidizone's a liquid and they coat a fertilizer prill in this liquid. So oxidizone and fertilizer mixed together. It's a really great product. It's super easy to use. It's a pretty new product to the residential turf market, but it's good for home lawn users as it's a granular. You don't have to mix anything in your sprayer. You can literally tip it in your spreader and spread it out, or spread it out by hand. Just make sure you follow the label instructions as always and water it in. But Oxifert is great for wintergrass control. It comes in a 3 kilo bag, but we've now just brought a new product out that's actually Oxifert Plus, which is the same product as Oxifert, but it's got an added insecticide as well. So you're getting not only weed protection, you're getting insect protection as well, which is a great product. But if you don't want to use a granular pre-emergent, Nathan, there's some good liquid options out there as well.
There are, and we also stock Barricade, which is probably the most broad sort of pre-emergent option on the market as far as a liquid or a concentrate version goes. So great option, and the same advice goes for Barricade or any of the other pre-emergents as Oxifert. It's about timing your application to get the most effectiveness out of it year after year. But if you had wintergrass last year and you're already starting to see it this year, I really highly recommend incorporating pre-emergents into your lawn care program. And within a few years, you'll certainly be massively on top of it, so much more than you would have been if you were only doing a post-emergent. So we highly recommend both a pre and post-emergent sort of strategy to get on top of it, particularly if your lawn's riddled with it. You kind of have to if you're ever going to get
There's no other real option.
Absolutely. So
just how the granular pre-emergents work is, because it's a fertiliser prill or fertiliser granule coated in that pre-emergent herbicide, you've got to water it in after you apply. And what happens is that prill basically melts down or dissipates is the word I normally use, but I don't know if it's actually a word or not, but it sounds like it's the right word. So we'll
dissolves,
use that. Dissipates. And what happens is there's a film that's formed between the soil and thatch level off your grass. And what happens with that film is it doesn't stop the weeds from germinating. They still germinate, but they basically hit that herbicide film or that herbicide layer and die before you can even see them. So it is important that you don't disturb your soil profile too much when you're doing this by chipping anything up or moving anything, because it will disturb the herbicide film. But once it's in and once it's set, you'll get up to 12 weeks out of a product like Oxifert. So that's a long time. You generally only have to apply it a couple of times during the winter months. But like I said before, a good way to make sure that you never get a problem is by doing it every season, every 12 weeks, start of summer, autumn, winter and spring, and you won't have a problem with weeds in your lawn. And just one more point before we move on from weeds, if you don't have anything else, Nath, is if you're unsure about what type of weed you have, because a lot of them look the same or a lot of them get misdiagnosed, we have a great tool on the Lawn Solutions Australia app. You can download that from the App Store if you haven't already, but it's got a great weed ID tool. There's plenty of stuff online and on our website, or you can just call, email, or jump on the socials and send a photo through to the team at Lawn Solutions. We've got a very experienced team here that deal with this stuff every day. So before you buy the herbicide, it's important to diagnose the weed first.
So moving on from weeds, the next part, we'd like to go into a little bit more detail about iron. A lot of people ask us about using iron and iron-based products throughout the winter period, and I think it's an important one to look at, particularly if you're trying to take your lawn to the next level, improve health and those sort of things. So should I use iron on my lawn, Joe?
Look, it depends. Like if you've got a shortcut, pretty manicured lawn and you want to give it a real spike in colour before it goes into total dormancy, you can get that out of iron. Like iron makes grass really, really pop. What I've found though is it tends to work better on lawns that are cut shorter, or it's probably more noticeable on lawns that are cut shorter than lawns that are left sort of at your normal domestic height, whether they're buffalo lawns or whatever. But if you've got manicured cooch or manicured zoysia, iron definitely improves the colour. It's not a super long-term thing, but they're good to use in the way they not only tick your colour over, but they also protect your lawn a little bit as it hits those cooler months. So most liquid fertilisers have iron in them, but you can use dedicated iron products. There is some powder-based iron products, but we have a concentrated liquid product called Iron Guard Plus. You can mix it in with other liquid fertilizers, or you can mix it in with any other liquid products, really, just to get the benefit out of it. What a lot of people actually do, and this isn't a winter thing, but when they're spraying growth regulators like Primo Max, they actually mix iron in with their Primo Max to avoid any discoloration. The same rule would apply with pre-emergence in winter. If you're spraying a liquid pre-emergent and you're worried about slight discoloration, you can combat that with a liquid iron, and it will help keep the colour in your lawn. But long-winded answer to a short question, but yes, I think you should in certain situations, but if your goal is to get a nice, deep, rich, natural green colour whilst your lawn is going into or is in dormancy, you're better off using a pigment, I believe, like Colour Guard Plus. Moving on from iron there into pigments like Colour Guard. They give you an instant green effect, and the green colour you get out of Colour Guard Plus is a real natural green colour. We were actually discussing this earlier today. You can see some that appear a little blue.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few different products on the market, and we don't really like to reference other products in a bad way, but we're pretty confident in Colour Guard Plus being quite a really natural colour as far as turf pigments go. Iron-based products, they'll green up your lawn to a certain extent, but if your lawn goes extremely dormant, and it also depends on the variety a little bit, you're getting past the stage where you're going to improve colour just by using an iron-based foliar fertiliser. You're going to need to look at something like a pigment if you have an issue with the colour of your lawn throughout winter. If you're okay with it, nothing wrong with a brown lawn, but if you want a nice green natural lawn throughout throughout winter. Turf pigments are the perfect solution. There's nothing wrong with it. They're not a paint. They're a pigment. They get absorbed into the leaf of the grass, and Colour Guard Plus is a great option for doing that.
And not only does it spark the colour up, it actually protects your lawn as well. We always had a saying here, it's like sunscreen for your lawn in a lot of ways. It's got a UV rating. It does protect the grass from sun, but also from frost. So it helps to keep, I guess, the texture and the health of the plant just that little bit nicer as you're heading into winter, and you get that beautiful natural green colour. It lasts for up to 12 weeks, which is a great thing. If your lawn's dormant, you'll only have to apply it once, maybe twice over the cooler months. Just a tip I will give to people if they are looking to apply pigments like Colour Guard Plus is to get your first application in before your lawn reaches total dormancy. If you wait for your lawn to turn white, you will notice that it's being treated with something. It's like having a white wall and painting it red and just doing one coat of red paint instead of doing an undercoat and then repainting it. Using Colour Guard Plus when your lawn is already dormant kind of gives you that effect. So you're best to apply it. You might have just packed the mower away and it's just starting to turn. You're better to apply it then and then reapply it in sort of 8, 10, 12 weeks time, whatever it's going to be, rather than waiting for it to turn totally dormant and then apply it. But it's a cosmetic. It's to make people's lawns obviously look greener straight away. But there is nothing wrong with a brown lawn, with a dormant lawn. It's a funny sort of thing in the Australian turf market. We've been lucky enough to travel all around the world and look at grass. And in the US, which is a huge turf market, dormant grass is just totally accepted. It's the norm. Where in Australia, it's not so much. It's kind of frowned upon if your lawn's a bit brown, but we don't care about deciduous trees as much as we do that.
It seems a bit, I'm not sure why that is. I think with the US in particular, their extremes of temperatures lead to just, they're being a bit more used to it. They're sub-zero temperatures are a normal thing in a lot of regions, and extremely hot temperatures throughout the summer. So they're used to it. It's normal, and they don't stress too much about it. Even the turf suppliers, they supply turf that would be considered completely dead looking in the Australian market, but it's perfectly fine to do so. It's going to bounce back when it greens up again.
A brown lawn is an environmentally friendly lawn. If you've got a brown lawn in winter, you have a warm season grass, so they're drought tolerant, so you're using less water, and they're far less susceptible to weeds and insects and that sort of thing. So you're using a lot less chemical than you are if you have a cool season lawn. So you've got a brown lawn in winter, you've actually got an environmentally friendly lawn, but you don't have to pour a heap of money and time into products. You can simply get a lawn pigment.
No, absolutely. But what you can do is you can try and increase the sunlight. The sun's arc in winter is a lot lower, so your sunlight hours on your lawn are limited, temperatures are limited, but what you can do is if you can trim back your trees, try and allow as much sunlight as you can possibly can throughout that period. We talked about Colour Guard being like a UV sort of protection for your grass. If you can increase the surface temperature of your lawn just a little bit with Colour Guard and offset that as well by trimming back plants and that sort of thing, and get as much sunlight as you can to your lawn, it's just going to hold up a little bit better throughout that winter period. It's going to come into spring a little bit healthier. And I think that's basically it for winter lawn care. If you do all those things, your lawn's going to bounce back in the warmer months. Get the rake out, get rid of the leaves and debris from time to time, and it's pretty simple for the most part throughout winter.
And all the points we've just spoke about there, if you're still a little bit unsure, we've actually just released a video, I think about a week ago, that covers these points. We covered them in detail there, but it gives you a bit of a visual about how each of these aspects can be carried out or what they actually look like. And as always, if you're ever unsure about anything, you can jump on our website, you can jump on our app, you can jump on our YouTube channel, and chances are there's a blog, there's a video that describes each of these activities in great detail. If you're still unsure, pick up the phone, jump on the socials, jump on email, and reach out to us here at Lawn Solutions, and we'll be more than happy to help. But I think we've covered winter lawn care in good enough detail there, Nathan.
That's it till spring. Let's go.
Thanks very much.